Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So this video today is going to be about gaslighting, which I know is a huge issue in this community. It's a big topic for people, and so I wanted to cover it in a video. But before I get into the details, I wanted to mention that I am offering one-on-one coaching for those who need it. I'm offering it at lower rates than other places you might find online. I have a free 15-minute consultation, 30-minute calls, 60-minute calls, and then I did put together some session packages for those who might want to meet a little bit more regularly at a further discounted rate. So I will put the link to my online booking calendar in the description of this video. I also will post the link to my website if you're interested in learning a little bit more about my story. I have my bio on there, and you can also book sessions through that. And then I will list my email address too. If you just have a single question you'd like answered, feel free to shoot me a message. Please just keep it to one single question, as I'm not having time lately to answer lengthy emails. So again, this video is about gaslighting. So I'm sure many people in this community, many people watching this video, if not everyone, is quite familiar with gaslighting. So what often happens is people will have adverse reactions to psychiatric drugs, or they'll have withdrawal reactions, and then they go to their doctor, especially if they don't understand what's going on, which was the case for me, and say, hey doc, I'm having all of these symptoms, what's going on with me? And more often than not, people are misdiagnosed with some type of mental illness. A lot of times it's anxiety, or it can be bipolar, it could be schizophrenia, it could be anything, or they're told that it's a progression of their mental illness. But a lot of people are going on these drugs for non-mental health reasons. Back pain, headaches, insomnia, menopause symptoms, PMS, grief. I mean, it can be a huge laundry list of reasons. And then they're having these adverse reactions or withdrawal reactions, and then they're like, where the heck is this coming from? I never had these problems before the drugs. And then that's further complicated by the doctors misdiagnosing it and telling them something else is going on, which doesn't make sense to the patient. Or even worse, they'll say, well, it's all in your head, you need to go to the psych ward. That also happened to me. And then I was in the psych ward when I actually had developed a movement disorder, akathisia, and, I was just getting the runaround. You just have anxiety, you just have severe anxiety, you have OCD, you need to go and get your mental health treated. And I did not have, I had some history of anxiety and OCD symptoms from a young age, but I had it totally under control for years before I started antidepressants. I just went on them because I got laid off and had situational depression that I was medicated for many years. So this is a huge issue, like I said. And then the problem becomes, what's the word? It's like a domino effect. So you first get the gaslighting from the doctors, then it can spread to your family, your supports, those around you, because you're like, there's something wrong. The doctor's saying it's my progressing of my mental illness, but I didn't have mental illness before then. And all of a sudden I'm supposed to believe that I developed this mental illness sometimes overnight if someone has an immediate adverse reaction. Or it could be, you've come off these drugs, you don't correlate the symptoms with coming off, as was the case with me, because you're unaware of withdrawal syndromes. And then they're saying you suddenly have ABC mental illness that you never had before the drug. So, and then this trickles down. So then your family members are like, well, why aren't you listening to the doctor? They're telling you you have mental illness. They're telling you need to have your bipolar treated. Why aren't you listening to them? And, or sometimes you do listen to them and you're like, okay, it must be the case for me. I suddenly developed mental illness, so I'm going to go back on the drug if the withdrawal reaction was the problem, or I'm going to try a different drug or multiple drugs or go up in my dose. It just depends on your situation, and nothing is helping, or it's making you worse, which was the case for me. And then you're like, what's going on now? And you're still being told, oh, you're just not on the right drug, or you're not on the right dose, or we haven't found the right fit yet. And so something in your gut is telling you something's not right, like this is not anxiety, but then you have the medical gaslighting, then you have your family sometimes, a lot of the times, turn against you too, or try to convince you, you do have some type of psychiatric problem, psychological problem, and then the isolation starts, and there's this whole trickle effect of events that happen, and then people end up alone, isolated, made to feel like they're crazy, and it just adds to the original problem, which is the drug. And I wanted to mention too, a lot of people will say, well, the problem with all of this, what it boils down to is lack of informed consent. And I have my own opinions on this. So even if every single doctor that prescribed a psychiatric drug, no matter what type of doctor they are, sat down with each patient and said, okay, here's the 37-page leaflet that goes along with this one drug I'm prescribing you. Here's the black box warning. And then they downplay the side effects. They say, oh, you might be a little restless, you might get a little agitated, but stick with it. You'll eventually level out and the drug will start working. Or they'll say these side effects can happen, but they're exceedingly rare. That's what I got. When I was prescribed my original SSRI, it was like, this drug is not addictive. It's not a benzo. It's easy to come off. It's not something that's, you're going to be, your body's going to be really addicted to and then have trouble coming off. He very much downplayed it. He did say like, oh, if you notice any startup symptoms or side effects, like you start to feel restless or agitated or can't sleep, just give me a call. It was very lighthearted. And so of course I wasn't afraid of the drug. And I know a lot of people will say, well, there's so much stigma around mental health struggle, so we need to not make people afraid of medication. That's kind of the general public's attitude. And then there's the people in this community that are like, no, the doctors need to be telling the truth about what it really can happen with these drugs. And it's not about scaring people. It's about making them informed. But then again, they do get downplayed, and the doctors will say the side effects are exceedingly rare. So there's all of this gaslighting that goes on. And I talk to people all the time, every single day, who end up completely alone because of the gaslighting. They'll say, well, my family tells me I need to take the treatment. Even if they get properly diagnosed with akathisia, they'll say, well, why aren't you taking the treatment? The doctor said there's all these different treatments. You have beta blockers and you have I forget what the class of drug is called, like the benztropine, the cogentins, the clonidine, like all of those drugs. And then there's the propranolol, like the beta blockers, and the benzos. Why aren't you taking any of the treatments? And they just don't understand that it's not so black and white. And when people often develop akathisia and severe side effects, as we know, they become hypersensitive and hyper-reactive to almost everything. It can start with the psych drugs, but then it can move to all classes of drugs, like prescription drugs, and then it can go to OTC drugs, and then it can go into food and environmental stuff, and they develop multiple chemical sensitivities. Again, it's this domino effect. So I want to say that I hear you. I hear you. I validate what you're going through, because I went through all of these things. I went through every psychiatrist in the area. I was doctor hopping like crazy, not because I was, quote, drug seeking, but because I knew in my gut, in my heart, in my soul that something was wrong, and I couldn't get it validated. I couldn't get it diagnosed. I was just like, what the hell is happening to me? And then I finally was able to get the right diagnosis, the right validation. But I know not many people, or not everyone, has that luck or has that experience. So I'm here to tell you, I'm validating what you're going through. It's not in your head. You know what type of person you were before the drug. You know what's going on now. Even if you have a history of some type of, I don't even like saying mental illness, but mental health struggle, that doesn't mean that what you're going through now is a progression. Like typically a progression in mental health illness or mental health problems is not going to happen overnight. So, I'm sure that could maybe happen, but if it's in direct correlation with going on the drug, coming off the drug, like in your gut, in your intuition, everybody I talk to says, this is not me. This is not who I was. This is not who I am. Everything changed when I started, stopped, tapered, updosed, whatever, these drugs. And so I'm here to tell you, and what I tell people that I talk to every day is, I hear you, I validate you, you're not crazy, it's not in your head. I've experienced that firsthand, the complete hell. Some of it is just a blur now. It was just so bad for so long. And like I said, the gaslighting, the family gaslighting, like I went through all of it. So this is a huge, huge, huge issue, and it needs to stop, because we already have the problem of the chemical changes in the body and the chemical reactions, but then we don't need to add all these extra layers on of, the gaslighting and the isolation and the second fear and the, like, it just creates and complicates the problem, 10, 100-fold. So I just wanted to make a video to say that I validate you and I hear you, and what you're going through, whatever you feel in your gut and your intuition, that's the truth. That's your personal truth. You know what happened to you. You know what type of person you were before. And this is a very, very, very real syndrome. So I don't know if that's helpful. I want to hear your thoughts and your experiences. What type of gaslighting have you faced? Has it been from multiple different people, systems? Have you maybe, I think most people in this community, if not everyone, has experienced it, but what degree have you experienced it at, and what was the outcome? Like, did people end up coming back around? Have you made improvements and then other people kind of saw the light? I know it took my own family, particularly my mom, a while to kind of to realize the full, like what fully was happening to me. And that was only because, or a lot of it was because she ended up speaking to someone who had been through it and come through the other side, come out the other side, and was able to really tell her firsthand, like when I was at my worst, what was going on with me. And that's really, really important, because hope is the number one thing people need in this. Support is a close second. They need both real life support if possible and support from others in this community that they can go through it together and heal together, or someone who's already come out the other side, like a success story or like a coach. And those are two huge, huge, huge factors in people's recoveries, or they're very important in people's recoveries. So, and that validation and that hope, like I said. So yeah, let me know your experience, and I hope everyone's doing okay and that you found this video helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye.